All right, so I always forget what I talk about in these past videos because I don't really want to watch them again. I just kind of want to record this and then maybe I'll look back on them years later or something. But this week I finished up studying ranges, so in particular, where to place the support and resistance for ranges, and learned a lot through doing that. But I didn't actually do the full week of doing it as I initially planned. It's because I got to a point where I thought that my time could be spent better elsewhere. I just wasn't really finding any new observations. So I went ahead and moved on to, for the rest of the week, just studying some weird trends that Mac marks up and just trying to figure out why he marked them one way or another. Um, and definitely, learned some from that. I've just been filling any sort of gaps that I have with doing that. And then I guess on Friday, I went ahead and started the next, um, I guess, idea that I'm studying. And that's how the trends sort of work and fall into each other. So looking at it to see, if I see this type of trend, what is likely to happen after and what type of trend is going to take over that trend. Sort of hard to explain into words, and yeah, but I've really really enjoyed that. I think it's kind of a mind blowing sort of thing to look at. It's I'm having a lot of fun with it. That's for sure. I really like studying the deeper concepts as opposed to whenever I studied, let's say, the EMA, the overnight highs and lows, and to some degree, the range, support, and resistance. Well, definitely with the EMA and the overnight highs and lows, where it was something that felt sort of one dimensional. It was very detailed, but it wasn't as in depth and wasn't like one of those sort of rules of the market. And it didn't feel like I was digging up hidden treasure, because that's sort of what it feels like whenever I'm looking at these deeper rules, I guess. Seeing something that's sort of fundamental to the way that the prices move, as opposed to just looking at the patterns of how prices react in one area or another. And range parameters is a little bit, or the range support and resistance is a little bit less like that pattern, but it still felt a little bit more like it. But things that I've really enjoyed studying were definitely the movement of twos, and now studying how these trends sort of work together and play together and lead to one another. So I guess with that, since I've been studying a little bit less than a week, like I had originally planned, I think it really will make more sense to sort of play it by ear. I think some of the concepts that, I mean, sure, I could spend a week on them, but I think that I'd be better off doing a few days of those sort of smaller concepts and then moving on to something else and coming back with fresh eyes later on. While there are bigger concepts like what I'm studying now, that I think that a week will be no problem at all. I think that there's enough stuff to dig up that it won't feel like I'm wasting any time. And it's never like I'd really be wasting time, but it's just how effective am I using the time whenever I'm studying. So going forward, I'm just going to play it by ear as far as how long I'm studying each one. But I'm going to keep a rolling cycle so that way I can come back with fresh eyes and hopefully get more out of that time. So just use the time more effectively, basically. So recently, I guess, since the 8th of this month, I'm pretty sure the 8th or the 9th, I've just been trading runners instead of scalping like usual. So usually I would scalp originally 1 point, and then I'd been doing 2 points for a little while, just remaining basically break even. Definitely, like on a downward slope for the most part, as far as my equity curve goes, I mean. But I started trading just only these runners after I saw a video by Penguin Trades on YouTube, and he trades at least 1-for-1 as far as risk reward goes, and usually 1-to-2. So if he's risking 4 points, he'd be scalping or trading for 8, basically. So he would only need to have a 33.33% win rate, which is tiny compared to if you're scalping 1 point, you're going to need maybe 80% to actually make any money. And 2 points, you need at least probably 70%. I don't know what the math is on that. I'd have to do it. And it obviously depends on the size of the bars and the ATR and everything. But since I've been doing this for the past few weeks, it's been going really well. I was at max up 31 points since I started, which is pretty huge, especially considering, like I said before, that I've just been trading break even or at a decent loss. So, and this is all, well, pretty much all sim trading. I do trade the MES a little bit, but mainly sim trading. But I can't remember where I was going with that. Oh yeah, it's only been a few weeks though, and I've only made, I think, about 10 or 11 trades. So not very many, and it's not enough to say like, hey, this is the way. I'm gonna have to do it for quite a bit longer before I'm really sure. With that, I think it's sort of changed my mentality on the trades though. Whereas whenever I was scalping, sometimes I would see a spot where it wasn't an ideal spot to take a trade, but my thinking was, well, it'll probably get enough to get 1 or 2 points out of it. But now that I'm trading mainly for this 1 to 2 or at least 1 to 1, I'm really looking at sort of the bigger picture and trying to think about which ones of these are actually going to get the biggest moves. And so my win rate actually has remained about the same. I think I have about maybe 60 or 70% win rate, which is about the same as whenever I'm scalping for 2 points. And that really doesn't make any sense. So either I'm changing the way that I trade, which I think I am slightly, or I'm on a lucky streak. And I'm probably maybe a combination of both of those. So I'm expecting the win rate to come down, and I'm definitely gonna have to try this for at least a month or two. I mean, like even that's like nothing before I can make any sort of determinations on whether this is gonna be a better way to trade. But it's got a promising start so far. The only other thing is I'm listening to the Art of Learning audiobook again. That's by Josh Waitzkin. He is he was a chess player. I think he reached international master level. And he basically breaks down his process of learning. He then, after playing chess, went and ended up, winning the push hands like world tournament. So he's basically a serial learner and a serial person who gets to the top of his field. So I really enjoyed that book a ton whenever I read it, or I didn't read it, I listened to it, but whenever I listened to it the first time, and that was over the summer, I was thinking about buying another audiobook, and I was like, whatever, I'll just listen to this again. It's already on my phone, and since I've been listening to it again, I've been finding so many little hidden gems that I missed the first time around, and especially studying the way that I am, I think it's really shown me the truth in his ideas of making smaller circles and numbers to leave numbers. And I can't really explain what those mean. I mean, if you're interested, just read the book. But yeah, it's pretty cool. Definitely enjoying that. I'm thinking about picking up some other books on the learning process. I've read a few already, but I thought it could be cool to maybe try and find one specifically on chess, because I think there's a lot of similarities in the higher levels of chess and having to break down single positions past whatever you would, or what you would ever believe is really possible. So like, if there's an individual just play on like a chessboard, I don't know about a play, but you know what I mean? Like if you took a snapshot at any given point, like a grandmaster is going to be able to break down the structures of how the pieces relate to each other in ways that beginners would never even think of. And in that way, I think that the learning style of trading, at least what I'm doing now, is very, very similar. And it's still pretty nuanced, so it's not something I can just, I think, look up. I think maybe I can find a book on the psychology and the learning of chess. So I'm going to look at that, or maybe I won't. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, that's all I got today.